What's up, world? It's your boy Tommy Mav, and I came to quickly speak on this whole the game last night with the Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie, Irving talking shit, and basically I just wanted to say this, right? First of all, if you are like I said before, when you hate LeBron James, it's like you have so little to celebrate generally, right? It's like the one thing you have to celebrate is the fact that 2 years ago he got beat by a super team with 4 Hall of Famers on it. 5 Hall of Famers on it when he was the only Hall of Famer on his team, right? Maybe Kevin Love might be a fringe Hall of Famer, right? And Kevin Love was a non-factor in that series, right? So you looking at that at that game, looking at that beat, and that's your one real thing you have. It's like, oh yeah, well he lost 3 times in a final. He lost 4 times in a final or something like that. It's like, or 6 times in a final, and then you bring up the fact that outside of the Mavericks series, every other series he wasn't just that series, and I think the series against every other series he was the underdog in it. People looked at the paper and said the team he's playing against is better than they got, right? The one that they love to bring up was them losing to the Mavericks. Nobody ever talks about the fact they lost to the Mavericks, but Chris Bosh was hurt. But nobody ever talks about that, right? Everybody just talks about the fact, what was LeBron against the Mavericks? Nobody talks about the fact that Chris Bosh was hurt and that he had been going through injuries that entire playoffs, right? Nobody says that. Nobody ever brings it up because it's a knock against LeBron, right? But people love to say people make excuses for LeBron, yet no one can really tell you a real excuse people make for LeBron. I've yet to see a LeBron. They're not like Jordan fans. Like Jordan fans have all of a sudden made the Utah Jazz the greatest team to ever play the game. The Portland Trail Blazers were on par with the KD Warriors. It's like, come on, like at least we live in reality. You know what I'm saying? You talk about people who support LeBron James's GOAT. It's like they don't have to rely on subjective BS because they can rely on so much factual evidence to back up their claim about LeBron. Like I said, you find one team that LeBron didn't do this once or twice. He did this on 3 separate occasions where he took a team that had absolutely no business being where it was and took it there. Right? You can't name one time Michael Jordan took a team that wasn't supposed to be where it was. Even in college, his team was stacked. So you try to talk about the one time when his team wasn't stacked was when he was first got into the league, and they were horrible. He scored a lot of points, but they were a horrible team. So you look at the situation, it's like, when did he ever take a bad team and help them overachieve? Never. And LeBron is like the pinnacle of overachievement with bad teams. That team that played the Warriors had absolutely no reason to be in the finals. None. Zero. He took them past the same Celtics that everybody's jocking, the same Toronto Raptors that Joel Embiid and the Warriors couldn't. Now, Steph Curry, who was supposedly the new best player in the league, and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green couldn't beat the same Raptors team. Well, they had Kawhi Leonard, so that's not really true. But they did have DeMar DeRozan, who's no slouch either. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's an upgrade, of course, to get Kawhi. But by the same token, it's not like, a lot of their better players were on the team already when LeBron swept them. So the sweep, in comparison to a 69 win team, 68, 69 win team without KD, they couldn't even win a series. LeBron took a team like the team that they were playing, and he took them to the finals. So, like I said, but you can argue this until the cows come home. LeBron James haters they don't hate LeBron. They love Jordan, and LeBron is just the fodder for their hatred. Because they're mad because he's good, and people call him the GOAT, which he is, because he has all the statistical and factual evidence that backs up him being the GOAT. But that being said, that game last night was such a joke. Like, I knew when I watched the game and I found out Schroeder wasn't playing, I was like, pretty much it was a done deal. When KCP got hurt and got in foul trouble, I knew it was just bad, because at that point they were playing around themselves, and then when Wesley Matthews got hurt, it was even worse. So now you're down to playing Quinn Cook. You know what I'm saying? And they were competitive. You know what I'm saying? It's not like it was a blowout the entire game. I mean, they got away from them in the second quarter and kind of never let get late. Every time the Lakers would get close, Joe Harris would hit a three almost every time. And it wasn't like they were some great passes. Most of the time they were contested threes. He just had a really good shooting night. They broke the record for threes, so they had a really good shooting night. But the truth of the matter is the Lakers, without their three of their top guards, still held them to 106 points. Right? So if you take that same game, throwing Anthony Davis, now obviously you got throwing Kevin Durant too, but Kevin Durant, in my opinion, would open it up. They might have scored probably 120 in that, but if you add Anthony Davis, because this is the problem with when you add KD, right? Joe Harris gets less shots. So the guy who hit 6 threes, what's his name? Cabaret TLC or whatever his name is, TCW or whatever. TLC, I think his name is. He gets less shots. So those guys aren't hitting those shots. So you could take probably 15 of his points and probably another 10 of Joe Harris's points. Take another 5 from DeAndre Jordan. So, like I said, those points KD would get, they still got, because Joe Harris them had an extremely efficient game. They broke the record for threes. So you can make the assumption that maybe Kevin Durant would have gave them probably 10 more points, if that, maybe 6 to 10 more points. LeBron James, at that point, with Anthony Davis, who pulls at least DeAndre Jordan to the mid-range, and there's no way in hell Brown is guarding Anthony Davis. That shit ain't happening. You can put him on the Lakers were forced to go small because Anthony Davis was out, and as I said yesterday, you cannot play with Marc Gasol as your starting 5 against an athletic big. And so it played into the Brooklyn Nets' hands, because they played small ball, and they only had Marc Gasol, which is a matchup problem in small ball. Especially if his 3-point shot is not throwing. But even if it is, he's not keeping up with those 5 wings. He's just not. But the mindset that this somehow changes the narrative, even though Kyrie Irving was, as I called him, crazy Irving, was jumping up and down, acting like they was winning a Super Bowl. And I don't know if he was making a joke with LeBron. It could have been a joke. I don't know. But he said that's y'all best free throw shooter or something to that effect. When LeBron was standing at the free throw line, which, like I said, the funny thing about it is Kyrie Irving is a 92% free throw shooter, but you can tell it got into his own head because he missed 3 free throws last night. So when you watch the game, it was kind of funny that he said that, and then clearly showed that he was under more pressure. But I don't think him and LeBron have that type of relationship. So I don't think that there was a joke. I think he was just being an a-hole, which, like I said, LeBron just ignored him. Everybody really just ignored him, and he went on to score, have a terrible shooting night, and scored 16 points. So I think he had like 16 points on something like 12 or 14 shots. So he played a terrible game. You can tell his mindset from the get-go was trying to win the game. They won, largely because the Lakers were undermanned. And LeBron really had no help. Like, they were missing wide open threes. And that's what gets me so mad. when you want a narrative to be something, people tend to just blur lines, right? It's one thing, but I know what a great defensive play. The Nets make some good defensive plays. Yes, they made some good defensive plays. They did not play a good defensive game. They basically just baited, just said we're gonna let LeBron. We can't stop LeBron. He's too big. He's too fast. He's too good. But what we're gonna do is, and we really can't stop the other guys too. So if they're on, we're gonna lose. So we're just gonna let them shoot, and then we're gonna hope they miss, and then we'll get and then take all our small bodies, kind of like what the Rockets did right before they got to the playoffs and got destroyed in the playoffs with Westbrook and Harden. Remember, they were blowing teams out because during the year you can't really adjust to that when you're playing them one game. So I remember they beat the Lakers in game 1. Remember when the Rockets beat the Lakers and everybody was like, "Oh, the small ball, it's gonna work." You see, it's gonna be hard for teams to match up with them because they're playing small ball. And then they got into the playoffs and they got eviscerated. That's what's gonna happen to the Nets, right? They have no rebounding. Like I said before. If you are not analyzing, if you look at this Brooklyn Nets team and actually think they in a 7-game series, they have any chance of beating a guy like Giannis, with Brook Lopez, Giannis, the 76ers, people don't understand the difference between playing a team once and playing a team 7 straight times. There is a huge difference. Because now, as the teams play each other, players that are not our role players, like a Joe Harris, become they get minimalized. They're not getting the open shots. You're forcing them to take more contested shots because you know their sets now. What LeBron does generally on the fly, other teams learn to do by game 3. They know your sets already. They know what you're going to do. They know what you're trying to do. So now it becomes harder. Now, people always say, well, then it turns into an ISO ball. Yeah, that's fine. On the offensive side, when you got those 3, that's not so good on the defensive side because you may know what the 76ers is going to throw at you. You may know what the Celtics is going to throw at you. You may know what the Raptors is going to throw at you. The difference in the situation is you can't guard them. There's nothing you can do. The 76ers, the Bucks, the Celtics can switch their defensive lineups around so they make up for what you're doing. You can't do that because you have nobody else. You're going to substitute Brown in at center every game? No, you can't. You don't have to play DeAndre Jordan against a guy like Joel Embiid. He could barely stop Montrezl Harrell, who's like 3 inches shorter than he is. So imagine what he's gonna end up doing against a guy like Joel Embiid. It's just not happening. Until they get a big, they're not beating the 76ers. They're just not. And even if they do somehow get a big, which I would be flabbergasted if anybody was stupid enough to trade them a big in this climate, right? When you know they're the team to beat, why in the world would I help you? You know what I mean? All they can hope for is maybe they can get Drummond. You know what I'm saying? But he's as slow as DeAndre Jordan is. He's an old school center. So I don't really think you're getting that much of an upgrade. Actually, I would make the argument that DeAndre Jordan is more athletic than he is. So you got a guy like that playing with a bunch of people who spread the floor and rotate and switch everything on defense. That's kind of hard to do with Andre Drummond. You know what I'm saying? So even if they do somehow get Andre Drummond, which I think would be a stupid idea, if that somehow happens, then more power to him. But in my opinion, I just don't think that's really a relatable thing to rely on. Like getting Andre Drummond, that's your fix, that's your cure-all. It's like, no, that's not gonna fix anything. You're still gonna have those same problems you've been having. Because he's a slight upgrade because he can do more on the offensive side, but you don't need more on the offensive side. And he's a great offensive rebounder, I guess, but as I said before, you don't need that. He's not a great defensive rebounder. You know what I'm saying? Especially if he's going to be getting pulled away from the basket because you got so many matchup problems on the defensive side. So like I said, but that's the way it works. Jordan fans are batshit crazy, right? So Nets are their new team because they think that they have the best hope of beating the Lakers. That's the only cure they have, because their whole sole reason for watching basketball is hoping LeBron fails so that Jordan can stay to go. That's their only sole reason for watching basketball. It's a sad existence, in my opinion. It's like I don't watch sports to watch someone else fail. I watch sports to enjoy what I'm watching. As I said before, I always felt crappy about the fact that I did not watch Kobe Bryant. I hated the Lakers so much that I didn't even watch the Kobe Bryant, and that's one of the things that really annoyed me, is that I did not get to see a great player play because I was so wrapped up in stupidity, because he reminded me of Jordan, and I hated Jordan, the way Jordan played, and I hated the way LeBron, I hated the way he played, I hated the way Tracy McGrady played. Like that whole era, I just kind of was in and out. I just watched football most of the time because I hated basketball because it was filled with a bunch of dudes that chunked a bunch of shots. And it wasn't until later that I realized how good Kobe Bryant was. But at the time, and it's not that I think Kobe Bryant is some, is better than I always thought. I did my research on him. I just had to go back and watch him. But at the time it was happening, I didn't pay attention to any of that. The Lakers, nothing. I wasn't a fan of Shaq and I wasn't a fan of Kobe, so I kind of just zoned out. Really, it was like the whole world zoned out. Their ratings were like terrible at that time, because I think it was just filled with people were saying, "Oh, it's because it was a hood element." And I don't think that is what it was. I think it was just bad basketball. They were going overseas, losing, not even winning like the bronze medal. Like they were terrible at that time. It was because there was no such thing as team ball. There was no smart ball. Everybody just chunking up 1,000 shots. So the ratings kind of sunk like a rock, and when the ratings sunk like a rock, it wasn't until like LeBron hit his peak, and LeBron and actually people piss on that LeBron James moved to go to the Heat, but that saved the NBA. Like their ratings were terrible before LeBron did that. When LeBron switched over to the Miami Heat, that's when their ratings kicked back up. And then ever since then, LeBron has been like on par with Jordan as far as ratings and the way he affects ratings. So it was one of those things where it was quick. Like people didn't see it coming, and he ended up saving. I think in a lot of ways he saved the NBA because they were doing so bad. But as I said before, the Blake Griffin trade, I thought I still think it would be a good addition. I know people will point out certain stuff, but I mean seriously, like anybody who would look at Blake Griffin and say he doesn't fit with the Lakers. Okay, fine. I had somebody on Twitter say that Blake Griffin wasn't a great 3-point shooter, which I don't know how you can even believe that. I mean, he shoots like 38%. He's shooting like 38% this year. I mean, he's shooting better than Anthony Davis. He's shooting as on par with almost everybody on the Lakers. I don't see why he's somehow seen as not an adequate 3-point shooter. Someone else mentioned him not being a great defensive player. I don't know where they got that from. Blake Griffin has never had any problem playing defense. He's never been a liability on defense. He's always, actually at the beginning of the year, defense was his strongest suit. So I don't know where the narrative came out that Blake Griffin doesn't play defense or isn't a good defensive player. That is just no basis in fact. I don't know where anybody got that from. Blake Griffin has always been a great defender. I don't know, once again, I can't argue against it because I don't know what the basis of the argument is. I don't know where they got that from. So I mean, Blake Griffin to me is a great fit for the Lakers. Especially with Anthony Davis being out, you know what I'm saying? I think if you put Blake Griffin on the Lakers, I mean, come on. The Brooklyn Nets, I mean, could you imagine them trying to stop Blake Griffin, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis with that puny lineup they got. I mean, it's gonna be a demolishment. But anyways, please comment. Let me know what y'all think. Thumbs it up if you like it. And as I said before, please like it, subscribe if you're not subscribed. All right, y'all. Peace.